Welcome back to the Reier on YouTube channel. We are live on a Tuesday night, a very Tuesday night here, as we get you set for another installment of Second Helping, the show of choice for fans and followers of the number one league in all of collegiate athletics, the Southeastern Conference. I'm Travis Reier. He is Brent Beaird, a longtime college football analyst, most recently for First Coast News down in Jacksonville, Florida. Brent also a voter for the most prestigious individual honor in all of collegiate athletics, the Heisman Trophy. We've got some news on that front too, Brent, as a guy that had positioned himself as a top 5 sort of candidate, John Notre, starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners. Some unwelcome news for him and head coach Brent Venables today. Hand surgery, thumb issue, injury against Auburn last Saturday, and that win, that hard-fought win over the Auburn Tigers. Apparently, he had this injury in the first quarter and proceeded to play the rest of the game with it on his throwing hand, Brent. But
that's amazing.
Like he's going to be out for an extended period now.
Yeah, how unfortunate. And look, this guy, frankly, let's be honest, he was a Heisman candidate, wouldn't he, Trav? To some degree. I mean, now they've got Kent State, obviously they got the big game in Dallas with Texas, and then South Carolina and Ole Miss. So, hopefully for them, now again, they've got a break this week.
Off this week.
Yeah, the 2 weeks will help them. So, hopefully for him, he will be. I don't know if he'll be back for Texas, Trav, but maybe he could be back when they go to South Carolina October the 18th.
Maybe. I mean, they're talking at least a month, and it is, as we know right now, September the 23rd. So, yeah, I think that would be the most ideal situation. Texas, obviously, you'd love to have him back for the Red River Showdown or Shootout, whatever they're calling it these days in Dallas, but seems like that would be pushing it. You're right. Having the off week helps, not so much in terms of getting him back for, Texas, but Michael Hawkins Jr. now looking like he's going to jump back in there. We saw a good bit of him last year after Jackson Arnold was cast aside initially during the 2024 campaign. Mixed bag for sure. Hawkins can make some plays with his legs. There's no doubt about that. He's thrown just 3 passes this season as the backup to Notre. Different system now in there with Arbuckle, so still probably trying to make some things fit. Here's the problem for Oklahoma, too, if Mateer's out for, let's say, Texas and maybe even South Carolina on the road, and certainly if it goes into Ole Miss in late October. This isn't a football team that has done it running the football other than John Notre on a consistent basis. So, how much does their identity have to change a little bit? Obviously very quarterback centric because of Notre. But this is a tough situation for both Notre and the Sooners moving forward.
Well, and I tell you that the other thing here is, look, we know coming into this season for Brent Venables, Travis, this is a crucial year, and that might be being frankly kind, but he needs he had him a quarterback. He needs a quarterback in the worst kind of ways. And defensively, they have really stood up. I mean, man, you
10
get
sacks against Auburn.
10 sacks against Auburn. That's amazing. But now it's trying to be able to figure out. They had a big win against Auburn, quite controversial, by the way, with some of the calls.
Yeah, a little
bit. But to say the least, they need him back sooner than later at quarterback.
Yeah, it's never a good thing when the league feels like it has to issue a statement about the officiating before even Monday rolls around. It used to be you'd at least get to Monday before you might hear from the league office in regards to some officiating snafus. Well, we didn't even get out of the weekend, and the league was already issuing statements it was pretty bad on a couple of different situations there for the Auburn Tigers in that loss to Oklahoma. We'll talk about Auburn more in depth coming up here in a minute because it doesn't get any easier for the Tigers
No, no.
this week on what is just shaping up to be a seismic Saturday in the Southeastern Conference from start to finish as we'll preview week 5 in the Southeastern Conference coming up in just a little bit. We wanted to touch on Mateer up front because that's obviously a huge item of interest within the league. It kind of continues a theme of really, too, Brent, you've already got a lot of beat up quarterbacks or some
You sure do.
quarterbacks at some places that really can't afford it all that much. South Carolina's been through a little bit of this with Lenore Sellers. Now we're seeing it with OU. Garrett Nussmeier has been playing through some things. It sounds like it's awful early to be hearing some of this. And like we talked about with Mateer, even if you say it's a month, again, South Carolina on the road is October the 18th.
Yeah.
I mean, even that feels like it would be pushing it. And Ole Miss in Norman is October 25th. That feels like, for me right now, if I was an OU fan, that would probably be the most optimistic I could bring myself to, is to think that, hey, maybe that last Saturday in October, we getting back for what could be a very, very important showdown with the Ole Miss Rebels. Also in the news on this Tuesday, Brent, our guy Chris Lowe, I mean, CeeLo kind of took the punch out of this a little bit yesterday. If you didn't know, by the way, Chris Lowe no longer works for ESPN. So in announcing and scooping those permanent opponents yesterday, CeeLo wasn't bound to the worldwide leader and its reveal show. Now, he didn't get into the 9-game schedule and those type of things, but we did get sort of a preview of what was to come this evening. I'll say this too. Good job by Chris Lowe in scooping that yesterday, but I didn't really get the impact of this 9-game schedule until I really saw it on paper this evening and thinking about, what that gauntlet's going to be like just with that extra SEC game. And that's before you factor in some of these non-cons that some of these schools or some of these programs are still going to have to play. And it makes you understand, if you didn't already, why Greg Sankey and the league are really pushing for as many spots as they can get can be guaranteed at that even expanding college football playoff table, Brent.
Well, and what Travis is talking about is we're at 12 now, but we're going to get the word really any day now that we're going to 16 starting in 2026 because, Trav, the last I believe this is correct, but pretty much the ACC was the last domino to fall, and now they've increased to 9. So basically, everybody pretty much is the same thing as far as every conference is concerned, playing conference games. So I'm not sure when we'll see it, and I'm sure they are still working on it. But Travel, we're a lot closer to that 16 teams in the playoffs than we were, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I've got it pulled up now here on the screen, the composite SEC schedule for 2026 for every team in the league. And, some of the things that we learned on Monday in terms of permanent opponents, you figured, wow, for, let's say, an Arkansas. Boy, I thought Arkansas got hammered with LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Now, these are going to be reevaluated every 4 years. I do like that because, as we know, things go in cycles in college football and even within the SEC. So from a competitive balance perspective, you look at Tennessee getting Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. That seems a little bit light. But you also understood that on the other side of that, with year to year rotating opponents, you kind of figured there would be balance from that standpoint. I think when you look at, let's say, a Tennessee, because of Kentucky and Vanderbilt being in that initial 4-year run for the Vols to go along with Alabama, next year you're still going to have Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M on that Tennessee schedule. Whereas, let's say, let's say in Arkansas, it's still going to be brutal though for
Sure.
whoever the head coach is in 2026 there in Fayetteville. Beyond LSU, Missouri, and Texas, Hogs are still going to have Georgia, still going to have Tennessee, still going to go to Auburn, still going to go to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's why when I say it really makes more of an impact when you see these lineups on paper, so to
It
speak.
does.
It's more than just talk now. It's very, very real.
Well, our buddy Greg Larson, who is a king of airwaves around here, used to say, and this was talking about the NFL draft, but it still goes with what you're saying here. He said, until you really look at the NFL draft on paper, it really doesn't hit you who and what these teams did. And I think the same applies here to the schedules. And to your point, and look, the other thing is we've got a 4-year window here that, and Trav, right now, Vanderbilt, of all people, is in that four-year window. And right now, Vandy is pretty good. What Clark Lee has done there has been frankly amazing. As you mentioned, they've got Auburn, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. And right now, look, there may be 2 or 3 or 4 teams you want to play, but right now, before you play Vanderbilt.
Right now, yeah. And as long as that New Mexico State contingent is in Nashville,
really.
And that's not to discount what else Clark Lee and that program has built, but we all know, I mean, the core foundation of what Vanderbilt has done these last 2 seasons goes directly to that group that came over from Las Cruces, led by Diego Pavia. Even the offensive coordinator situation,
Jerry
Kill. I mean, that's been everything for the Vanderbilt program. Now, once Pavia and Eli and some of those guys move on, we'll have another conversation coming up about Vanderbilt that relates to sustainability. Hey, maybe it will. Maybe Vanderbilt will just continue to roll along as a really potential 7, 8, 9 win team in the Southeastern Conference. I got my doubts about it, but that's why it's good that you can revisit these type of situations every 4 years. Anything else? I know it's still pretty fresh in terms of the 9-game release for 2026 and beyond where the SEC is concerned. Brent, as you look at it, do you feel like just initially the league got it right in terms of competitive balance? It looks that way to me. Yesterday there were some things that stood out to me more, like Arkansas maybe getting a tough part of the deal, and also maybe Tennessee coming off a little bit better than some other teams. But I think LSU is a common denominator in all this too. With the common opponents, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the show. By the time the show was done, I had LSU playing about 6, common opponents every year, and Florida wasn't going to happen. Alabama couldn't happen. But were you surprised that for LSU, neither Alabama nor Florida were among those 3? Or did it make more sense to you tonight when you saw, well, I think Alabama and LSU are playing, they're playing next year. So it's not like LSU's going away for 10 or 12 years.
Well, and there were teams like Texas A&M. They're playing LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Now that's all within their region, right?
Yeah.
And then Texas is playing Arkansas, Oklahoma, and A&M. And those are 3 teams that they know were within their region. Or, I mean, at Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt, basically all states touching the state of Tennessee. So, and then you got Florida, Georgia, Kentucky for South Carolina. That's a bit out of the way, just a tad. But I think the thing they did, Travis, was they did a lot of these teams favors by having at least three of the opponents. Would you say touch the borders at least?
Yeah, and it's interesting because of the 9-game schedule, you're going to be on the road for 5 league games one
Yeah,
year and then at
yeah.
home for 5 the next year. Look at Alabama for
Mhm.
more on that. Alabama in 2026 will go to Mississippi State, to Tennessee, to Kentucky, to LSU, to Vanderbilt. That's manageable when you consider kind of the
Mhm.
opponents.
Mhm.
Certainly, Neyland and Tiger Stadium will be difficult on the
Yeah.
road, but going to Kentucky, going to Vanderbilt wasn't so easy for Alabama a year ago. Going to Mississippi State, a place where Alabama's had a lot of success. Again, there seems to be some equitable balance there in that type of situation. And then you look at Ole Miss even in
Mhm.
2026. The 4 road games, we'll see with Florida a year from now what that even looks like. But Ole Miss in 2026 is going to Oklahoma and Texas,
Yeah.
but they're only on the road for 4 of those 9 SEC games. They get home games against LSU, Mississippi State, which Ole Miss will have back-to-back home games, I guess, against
Mhm.
LSU because that's the case coming up Saturday at Vaught Hemingway. They'll get Auburn at home next year. They'll get Georgia at home next year. They'll get Missouri at home. So the 9-game setup creates some interesting scenarios, home and road.
Well, and the here in Jacksonville, with the stadium being redone, is also makes an interesting couple of quirks with Florida, Georgia, Georgia, Florida, playing in Atlanta and then playing in Tampa. So that's something that's kind of interesting with this. But look, I think all in all, the schedule makers did a pretty good job with this, and getting getting teams together. And look, the thing you and I talked before was this, but you're always going to have some blips on the radar. And one of those, remember, Trav, was like Georgia playing A&M and Athens, but maybe in what since A&M's been in the conference, Georgia's been to College Station maybe once. If
I don't even think they've been once.
no, they may not have. So
Mm.
they straighten long-term problems like that out with the schedule.
I like Tennessee's schedule still for 2026, not just because the Vols kept Kentucky and Vanderbilt as 2 of their 3 permanent opponents for the next 4 years. The Vols also only have 4 SEC road games next year, and those consist of at Vanderbilt. Who knows again what
Yeah,
Vanderbilt will look like
yeah,
next year? At Arkansas, who knows what Arkansas will look like next year? At South Carolina, that program right now is teetering a little bit in what was
yeah,
expected to be a
yeah.
big season. At Texas A&M. So those 4 SEC road games for Tennessee next year,
Mhm.
A&M, I would think would be very formidable. But other than that, Tennessee gets Alabama at home, Kentucky at home, Auburn at home, LSU, Texas. Those are
Yeah.
tough opponents. Make no mistake about it. But just from a home versus road perspective within the league, I think Tennessee came out of this thing in pretty good shape initially.
I would be interested to know, and I'll cease my comments after this, would be, when you think about travel, and I know they do throw that in there, but I'm looking at this Tennessee situation as far as 2026 games on the road. I mean, at Arkansas, at A&M. Frankly, Travis, if you had to, you could bus there, couldn't you? Uh,
You could,
South Carolina, I wouldn't recommend that.
right?
But I think the reality of it is, and I know you don't do it just on the basis of transportation or proximity, but at the same time, look, if some of these schools, if they need a break, maybe they go the bus route a little bit instead of the plane route. I don't know. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, even a game like you got this weekend, though. I mean, proximity of, yeah. I mean, you see it. You'll see it again with Mississippi State coming back on Alabama's schedule,
Yeah,
and that's a
absolutely.
90-mile trip.
Yeah,
So that's a
really.
bus trip. for Alabama. I want to say Alabama buses to Auburn every other year. So that's already a bus trip. Now, Alabama to Georgia this weekend, Alabama will fly into Atlanta, I believe it is, and then bus into Athens or stay in Atlanta and then day of game, bus into Athens. I believe that's what Nick used to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are some different ways to get around the league. We've already seen it, and maybe we'll see more of it moving forward. But we just want to give you some initial thoughts. It's kind of a tough time to drop something like this because there's so much stuff coming up this weekend.
It really is.
But I understand logistically and in terms of operational things that have to happen. There's a timing involved that you got to get this stuff out and get a plan and get your plans in place. So we definitely get it from that standpoint. But what we want to do, Brent, because it is such a big weekend, is talk some matchups within the Southeastern Conference. It's a big weekend in terms of just conference games. But then you start bringing in opponents like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah, really.
The Fayetteville, Arkansas on Saturday. That's going to be an 11 a.m. local time kickoff. Big day on ABC. I mean, it's a big day on ABC. It's a big day on ESPN. Hell, it's even a big day on SEC Network.
Yeah, it is.
But Notre Dame going to visit the Arkansas Razorbacks. Safe to say, Notre Dame would certainly love to put together a win of note. The Irish coming off an expected win over Purdue last Saturday in South Bend. A lot of dismay being cast towards Notre Dame first-year defensive coordinator Chris Ash. And that's because Notre Dame fans aren't going to get after Marcus Freeman. I mean, Marcus Freeman's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
But Marcus Freeman is beloved right now anyway.
Yeah, he is.
In South Bend. So Chris Ash catching a lot of it for Notre Dame's lack of consistently good defense to this point of the season. But boy, Arkansas, it's tough, Brent. I mean, you can see things like last Saturday at Memphis coming from a mile away.
Sure you can. Absolutely.
I think I tweeted as much. At halftime, I think it was an 11-point game.
Yeah.
Arkansas was ahead. Probably should have been up more. Everybody will point to these in-game situations. Arkansas loses these games before that, in my opinion, because they should be up even bigger. Now, maybe not so much Ole Miss 2 weeks ago, but Oklahoma State, who, by the way, parted ways with Mike Gundy finally here on a Tuesday. That was a game a year ago in Stillwater that Arkansas lost that game before the later stages of that one. And then also I'd say the same thing with Memphis this past Saturday. It never really should have come down to it.
No, never.
The disparity in personnel, Taylon Green at the quarterback position, and Taylon will continue to do some really impressive things, and then he'll still have that turnover, that inexplicable sort of sequence where you go, what was that?
Yeah.
And here we are. It's just a team, unfortunately, under Sam Pittman, a program under Sam Pittman. We talk about that grime of losing, and it gets to the point where I don't care how much Ajax you got. I don't care how much Taylon Green you got. I don't care how much Bobby Petrino you got. It gets harder and harder to get that grime of losing off a program.
It does. And look, with the coaches already being fired, and we're not saying this is going to happen to Sam Pittman immediately, but the reality of it is this year that buyout dips below $10 million. So Trav, any SEC school with the buyout, they've got to deal with the $10 million. I'm not going to say that's chump change, but when you look at some other coaches that are 50 and 60 million, it makes a big difference. But look, to your point, against Ole Miss, blowing an 18-point lead, which is the largest in Division I, scoring 3 points in the second half. And I mean, Trav, and they fumble the ball inside the 10, right? You've really got a feel for them. But to your point, when does Arkansas learn to win games like these last two games?
I'm afraid it's not going to be under Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, if you're Arkansas, you go ahead, you have a great respect for Sam Pittman.
Sure.
He's a guy that everybody pulls for, or it did at one point. But you let him finish the season, and then you probably go about your way. You send him
Yeah.
off with his parting buyout, and you're in the hunt again. You're thinking, you John Summerall, some of these guys that you anticipate being in that mix in this next coaching cycle. So, but what about Notre Dame? The thing is, I think Arkansas offensively again can get
Yeah.
this thing
Yeah.
in the 30-point range, but I don't think CJ Carr is a dynamic guy at the quarterback position
Hmm. Hmm.
for Notre Dame, but even at home, it's hard to envision Arkansas finishing the job. Arkansas is good enough, though.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't a great Notre Dame team. And I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think the winner
I
of this is
agree.
probably going to have to score somewhere in the low to mid 30s.
Probably. And this is like 11 o'clock kick, I
Yeah.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
Also, now what's interesting here is this is not the Notre Dame from last year, but Notre Dame's allowed 98 points in the first 3 games
Yeah.
under the aforementioned Chris Ash, second worst scoring defense in the opening 3 games in school history. Travis, you don't. Whatever you do for a school, you don't want to be mentioned in that phrase in school history. But
Not in a school history like that one,
no, no, absolutely not. So, but again, and look, now you've heard this like I have. Is one Bobby Petrino? Would he like to get that job?
rolling back in there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Trev have their, and again, we don't know this for sure, but one wonders, have there been some conversations already between some of the decision makers?
Oh, Bobby Petrino doesn't have a history of clandestine meetings about
No,
jobs.
no, of course
Bobby
not.
never did that with Auburn back
No,
in the day, did
no,
he?
no,
No.
no.
That would not happen with Bobby Petrino. I'm going Arkansas in the upset. How about that?
Oh my.
Going Arkansas in the upset at home early on Saturday. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if Arkansas is still hung over from Memphis. A lot of
Yeah.
people have fallen victim to Memphis hangovers in the past. We'll see if the Razorbacks can sort of shake that off. And I think you'll know early.
Yeah. I
Because I think
agree.
Notre Dame
I
will
agree.
show up under Marcus Freeman ready to
Mhm.
go. And early kickoff, I think, helps Notre Dame
Probably.
to go on top of. This is a fan base for Arkansas, even
Yeah.
with Notre Dame in there. You wonder how much they're going to have in the tank for an 11
Mhm.
a.m. local kick. But
Right.
against better judgment, I'm going to go Arkansas over Notre Dame on Saturday. What about Utah State at number 18? That's right. I said number 18, Vanderbilt. How about
Oh,
that? Still doesn't come off the tongue
yeah,
as smoothly
yeah.
as some other teams, but it is very impressive Vanderbilt team right now, top 20 team, 22.5 point favorite. That might seem a little low, but Utah State comes into this thing at 3-1. This is going to be another early kickoff in the Central's time zone on SEC Network. One of those situations where Vanderbilt trying to continue to build as it looks ahead to some pretty massive matchups, Brent, within the Southeastern Conference.
I'll tell you what, Vandy 4-0, first time since get this now, first time since 2008. Vandy's been 4-0, and Trav, how about that? How about that 70-point knot they put on Georgia State? Now look, we know
Little revenge for
yeah.
that loss last year.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the aforementioned Diego Pavia threw for 245. Trevin ran for almost 100. How about that on his day?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Why not Diego for the Heisman at this point? I mean, why not put
Really?
Diego on that big board out in Vegas, among the favorites? No,
Mhm.
it's been very, very impressive. And look, you can say, well, it was Georgia State. I've seen Vanderbilt go half a season without 70
Yeah,
points.
really.
Okay.
No doubt.
So seeing Vandy put a 70 burger on anybody is still going to grab your attention. But yeah, this should be another W for Vanderbilt again as it gears itself back up to jump back into SEC play here in the near future. What about Auburn staying on the road, Brent? After that tough loss, that was retro SEC. It felt like in a lot of ways, right? Yes. Quarterbacks taking big shots. Boy, there was some physicality involved in that game between Auburn and Oklahoma last Saturday. Fun game to watch. It was tough at times. You know, Jackson Arnold, I thought at times was heroic. And at times I thought Jackson Arnold for Auburn was too much like the guy who got benched a year ago.
Yeah.
There just doesn't seem to be. And I know you can talk about Auburn's protection and not doing a good job with that. And I think a couple things can be true in that regard. I think at times that was a problem. But whatever that inner clock is that we always hear people talk about with quarterbacks in terms of getting the ball out, it just doesn't seem like Jackson Arnold is working with that sort of situation times in the pocket.
No, and I tell you what, the Oklahoma front seven, front five, depending on whatever the situation is, really very impressive. The two numbers that really stick out to me like a sore thumb, or the allowing the 10 sacks, and Auburn having Travis, a whopping 13 penalties. When you're giving up that many sacks and penalties, Trav, there's no real need to look at any other stats, is it?
There isn't, and yes, absolutely, you can look at the deception play from OU. I didn't, you know what though? I didn't even know that was a thing until really? I heard Matt Austin talking about it on the broadcast. I really didn't. I thought, well, you know, OU got over with that to Satania, and it was very interesting to hear that. Yeah, if you're doing something with the intent to deceive,
yes,
that should be an unsportsmanlike penalty. So it's new to me. It didn't appear to be new to Hugh Freeze based upon his reaction. You know, there was a pass interference situation, I thought, with Cam Coleman on the double pass, where that didn't get called down around the goal line. So a couple of instances where you understand where Auburn people and Auburn's fans are coming from, but still, as is the case most times in a game that's this close, Auburn was in a position, it felt like, to sort of overcome that and get the job done. But game kind of came down to the second half, and Oklahoma was able to score 11 points in the fourth quarter, 14 in the second half, and get the job done over the Auburn Tigers, who now get the task of facing a relatively rested, group of A&M Aggies coming off the highest of highs after that win a couple of Saturdays ago in South Bend.
Well, and I can tell you this, the league is unforgiving, isn't it, Trav? No one feels sorry for you if something happens that probably should not have happened. And this Aggie team, undefeated, as Travis said, had just a humongous win just a few weeks ago. Still excited over that. And look, the win over Notre Dame, it just on the road particularly, and that was a game that was just out of reach for A&M. It wasn't this time. They really did well, but boy, they have got, and this Auburn game is going to be a tremendous game too, to say the least. So, but Trav, can Auburn handle all these A&M wide receivers? Can they handle another SEC team with a big and brutal a defensive line of scrimmage? We'll certainly be interested to see what mentally how Auburn reacts to that tough loss to Oklahoma.
It will. Marcel Reed, how does he continue to move forward at the quarterback position? You mentioned those A&M wide receivers, KC Concepcion, but they had multiple hero types.
He did.
in that win over Notre Dame. The tight end position came up very big for them in South Bend for A&M. This game feels like it could be similar to Auburn, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, rushing yards from the quarterback position could be something to keep an eye on in this game, especially for Auburn. Although Auburn did get some good stuff,
They did.
from the running back Jeremiah Cobb in that loss to Oklahoma on the road, 6 carries, 61 yards. Cam Coleman, I thought it wasn't a breakout performance for Auburn. There was some money left on the table, it felt like, including the potential for at least one PI call against him. But he goes 3 for 88 and a touchdown. So that was promising. There are, again, times when I feel like Jackson Arnold is going to take another step as a passer. And then there are times where he just doesn't seem to process as quickly or as well as he needs to. And, that shows up in his sack totals and some of his inefficiency at the quarterback spot. But I'm going to go A&M at home. I just, it's a tough spot for Auburn. There's some desperation involved for Auburn. But it's a tough place to be when you're on the road against 2 top 10 type teams back to back.
And Trav, listen, speaking of desperation, you're at A&M, and then you've got a couple of weeks off, and then you host Georgia, and then you host Missouri. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's and this is the 8-game schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the 8-game schedule.
Yeah,
wait till we
right.
get into the 9 in a year's time. Also at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central from Vaught-Hemingway Stadium on Saturday, the Ole Miss Rebels host the 4th-ranked LSU Tigers. Lane's still not happy about those day games that he plays against LSU at Vaught-Hemingway, but when he's gone to Tiger Stadium, it's prime time. It's Death Valley at night. He has no problem letting people know that he's not been happy about that. But Ole Miss, a 1.5 point favorite over the LSU Tigers. Quarterback situation for Ole Miss. What are we hearing about that, Brent, with Austin Simmons dealing with the injury? And of course, Garrett Nussmeier, maybe not 100% himself. And a couple of defenses that can get it done, especially Blake Baker and the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, and what Travis is talking about is Trinity Chambliss, who averages 417 total yards and 5 touchdowns, who is really playing well. I mean, Trav, and this is a situation with Lane. By the way, Lane being rumored, we say, only for that for the Florida opening. If
that's
that
about
comes open.
3 years running now, isn't it? Lane in Florida.
Yeah, it has been. But I'm curious your thoughts on Trinidad. And I mean,
what a story, man! This guy was what, D2?
Yeah, maybe.
Ferris State, and now he's just lightening it up in the Southeastern Conference. And you thought he was going to be kind of just maybe a little bit of a change up, although Austin Simmons can run it pretty well himself. But the guy he's kind of Blake Sims'd it a little bit.
Really has.
You go back to Lane in 2014 with Blake Sims at Alabama, but what a revelation this guy's been at the quarterback position for the Ole Miss Rebels. I think, LSU's run game has got to be better.
Yeah,
I still don't think you can just leave it all to Garrett Nussmeier in that passing game. And I think right now LSU's bottom 4 in the league in rushing offense, even with Caden Durham. So you didn't anticipate that as much. Now, you knew you were going through some things along the offensive line and even at the tight end position where you lost Mason Taylor to the NFL. But there's some teams in this league that better figure out some semblance of a run game here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Alabama, I think, is one of those.
Yeah.
LSU, I would put up there. Certainly South Carolina, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think LSU's defense is the one thing I feel
Yeah,
pretty confident about. But
right.
man, with what we've seen Lane and Charlie Weiss Jr. do with this quarterback situation, Ole Miss playing at home, it's a little bit tough to pull the trigger even on a top five
Mhm.
team in LSU.
And listen, Caden Durham, the LSU running back, probably their best running back, has got an ankle injury.
Yeah,
Now he's supposed to practice some. It's on a high ankle sprain, fortunately for him. But look to your point. What's what's fascinating here is how much LSU's improved defensively. Well, we thought
it's
Blake Baker would be able to do good things there. Man, he really has. And we know brother Pete for Ole Miss
yep.
can do it there. I mean, Trev, could this thing? I mean, this looks like it's going to be 500 yards for both teams and 55-50. But could these two defense take this game over? Maybe.
Could I think the equalizer for Ole Miss and going against this LSU defense is that I don't think LSU has dealt with a more balanced type of
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
We've said it many times before about Lane, but at the end of the day, he really wants to run the football.
He
And
does.
Ole Miss to this point is running it to the tune of nearly 220 yards per
Mm-hmm.
game.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterback can contribute to that. LSU comes into this game averaging 117 rushing yards per game.
Yeah.
And Garrett
Yeah.
Nussmeier's not going to help make that any better
No.
from the
No.
quarterback position. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going hotty toddy at
Yeah.
home.
Yes.
If LSU wins this game, again, I think it'll be due in large part to uh, that defensive side of the football. I've seen Garrett Nussmeier, though, in situations where he didn't have enough of a run game
Yeah.
to kind of balance some things out,
Mhm.
and I didn't like what I saw
No.
in those
No.
situations, specifically late last season. It felt like that was the case for LSU.
And listen, Ole Miss beat Tulane. Tulane's a pretty good football team,
I
frankly,
thought
and
that was as impressive of a
it
win
really
for Ole
was.
Miss as I've seen so far, especially coming off that sort of very much roller coaster performance against Arkansas to come
Mhm.
right back out and just throttle a solid Tulane team with LSU on deck.
Yes.
That spoke to
Yes.
me about where Lane's kind of got that thing this year.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it's just amazing. But again, the two quarterback situation, a situation where Lane's got both of them ready, and they may not miss a beat. Matter of fact, they may even get better. But again, I give Garrett Nussmeier credit against Tulane, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks with in that situation, but at the same time, yeah, this is going to be a really good game, and it's not even the game of the week.
No, it's not. And I think in a lot of ways, the best defense against Lane is a run game
Yeah,
from
true.
your perspective.
Hmm.
To kind of slow things down, limit possessions, those kind of things. Don't get into a shootout with them. And again, I just don't know if LSU. I feel really good about the defensive side of things. Is the
Yeah.
run game for LSU and the lack of balance that I think could be a real problem for Brian Kelly this Saturday in the Grove. Let's talk about 4:15 Eastern on Saturday. Brent, is this it? Does Jeff Lebby, head
Yeah.
coach of the
Yeah.
4-0 Mississippi State
Yeah.
Bulldogs. Is this the spot where he gets an SEC win, Brent Beaird?
Well, it would be tremendous for me if he did. By the way, Trav, to your point, 4-0, first time since 2014. Look, we get the schedule, but that's impressive for State. Blake Shapen actually got 50 yards rushing in the game. How about Trev? How about transfer running back Fluff Bothwell?
Great
Uh,
name.
5'10", 230-pound bowling ball, Travis.
Fluff, Fluff Bothwell sounds like Buff Bagwell. I know that's knowing too much about professional wrestling there. Or like if you're old enough, this is outdated. Uh, Gil Thorpe, the old cartoon strip, the old
Yes.
high school football coach. Sounds like Fluff Bothwell would have been
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
running back. Gil Thorpe. back in the comic strip days. But
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
mean, this looks like a spot for Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of similar offenses, and how they go about their business. You know what? We saw Tennessee and Atlanta. I think there's some games around college football that are interesting this weekend because we're going to see teams in true road environments, and it's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
October for the
Mm-hmm.
first time. Tennessee's one of those, right?
Yeah.
Florida State getting out of the SEC's that kind of team Friday night
Mm-hmm.
going to Virginia.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting because Florida State's been at home literally since late
Mm-hmm.
August. So
Yeah.
there's that to take into consideration in some of these matchups in terms of teams that maybe we have already developed some strong beliefs about, but most, if not all of those have been based on largely home field performances or maybe some neutral site in that too.
I tell you what might get Tennessee at some point, Trev, you would thought it would against Georgia, but Georgia mostly ran the ball. But to two things here, Aaron Carter, the Tennessee linebacker, leading the league with 32 tackles.
Yeah.
Rush defense has been great, but Trev, that pass defense leads the league, and this is not a good stat here. 1,100 yards they've given up through the air. A bit badly on some big plays. 19 completions for 20 yards or more. That's the worst in the SEC. We were praising Oklahoma's defense a few minutes ago and LSU's defense. We can't quite do that yet for the Vols.
No, and they had a couple of corners out against Georgia, right?
They did. They did.
Yeah,
Good
they
point.
were down a
Yes.
couple of guys, so maybe that can improve as the health sort of goes hand in hand with that on the back end for that Tennessee defense. I'm still going to go Tennessee on the road there.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think I'm going to go Tennessee as a
Mhm.
7.5-point favorite. Maybe Mississippi State covers that. I still think Tennessee too much across the board
Yeah. Yeah.
for Mississippi State there in Starkville. What about very quickly UMass at Missouri?
Yeah.
That's a game no one will watch Saturday night at 7:30. I mean,
I know.
zero. I mean, you got Oregon at Penn State also in prime time to go along with Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame too, but not for this game. But you've got Kentucky at South Carolina is going to be in that window coming up that we'll talk about. But Missouri with a chance to certainly catch its breath after an impressive win over South Carolina, the kind of game you expected to unfold there in Como last Saturday night, pretty much did. Missouri, again, when you talk about rushing offense, this is a team that's rushing for, I think, close to 300 yards
Yeah.
per
Yeah.
game. And they're doing it
Mhm.
in large part with the traditional approach. It's these
Yeah.
backs in that offensive line that they're getting it done with. I mean, Prbula can run it from the quarterback position okay, but they thought that's what Sam Horn was going to give them
Yeah.
at
Really.
quarterback more so than
Yeah.
Prbula. Very impressive start for Drink's group and, a feel good opportunity Saturday night before some big ones come up down the road.
And let me say real quick, Ahmad Hardy
Yeah.
is one of the great secrets of the SEC. Second Missouri player all time. Now, this is not just the last 10 years. This is all time with 100 yards rushing in each of the first 4 games. Now, look, I know they haven't exactly played Georgia, Alabama, and Miami and so forth, but at the same time, I mean, they're 4-0, in that Missouri coaching staff not apologizing for it for a minute.
They're not. And Hardy at this point, 600 rushing yards, leads the SEC. The second leading rusher in the Southeastern Conference right now, Brent, Jeremiah Cobb of Auburn
Yeah.
with 375 rushing yards. So
Man.
Hardy with 225 more rushing yards than his nearest competitor
Good
in the
night.
rushing standings in the Southeastern Conference through
Wow.
4 games. And look, Jamal Roberts for Missouri's 7th in the
Yeah.
SEC in
Yeah.
rushing when you look at his 298 rushing yards, Hardy and Roberts are both averaging more than 7 yards per carry. Just lighten it up, and no reason to think they won't do the same thing this Saturday against the Minutemen, right?
Trev, Hardy may have 1,000 yards by Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, you just go ahead and send that maybe first team all SEC
really
plaque
to
Ahmad out in Como. Here's one for you. 7:30 Saturday night, ABC, part of that monster ABC triple header. Alabama, 17th ranked Crimson Tide, traveling to Athens, trying to do it one more time to the Bulldogs. Man, this series, it's always been Alabama's way. But if you had told me back after I went to Athens, I think in 2003,
right,
and watched Mike Shula in Alabama get just rolled. If you had told me, okay, from that point forward, Alabama's going to win 9 out of the next 10 in this series, I would have laughed. I would have laughed you dead in your face. But that's where we're at with it. This is, to me, an interesting dynamic this week because I haven't heard fans for either team really chirping. I haven't heard a lot of faux macho confidence that you typically hear going into games like this. I think there's a sense of dread for both fan bases. I think for Georgia people, it's, well, here we go again with Alabama, not really expecting them a whole lot, even though the game's at Sanford Stadium Saturday night. And then I think for Alabama people, it's like, oh, this team's going to take this on the road under Kalen DeBoer against a quality opponent. It's the kind of dread that I think fans experience more so when there's just uncertainty. They don't really know what to expect from their team. And I think more so probably for Alabama even, that's the feeling about that program right now under Kalen DeBoer. Which Alabama's going to show up Saturday night, right?
Yeah. Trev, help me on this. I really think the winner of this game is a team that can run the ball. Frankly, I think that's going to be huge. Now, look, both the young quarterbacks have done well. Frankly, man, especially Ty Simpson is lit it up. Now, this is a different animal here.
Yeah,
going to be fascinating to see what he does. But Georgia's averaging over 200 yards rushing a game. I think that's going to be huge. Now it's going to be huge. Tim Keeney comes back for Alabama on that D line. Jim Miller is back. So they both should be healthy. And look, I'm with you. I'm not sure much of anything would surprise me with this thing. Would it you?
Yeah, you're going to turn it on Saturday night, and I'm not going to allow myself to be surprised by anything.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to put a lot of stock for me into Alabama in this game after what we've seen as recently as Florida State in Tallahassee.
I agree.
And going back to last year to Norman and Nashville and Knoxville. The win at LSU last November just feels more and more out of the blue.
Yeah,
like it
really
was very much the exception last year rather than the rule. And you had an off season, to get ready to try to change that type of situation, and you fell flat, absolutely flat. So we've heard a lot this week out of Tuscaloosa about a team that's excited, a team that's connected and focused, and ready to go. And I think for most of the Alabama fan base, it's, that's great. Let's see it.
Saturday
night. At this point, this is a put up or shut up game. As I said on the channel last night, this is a program game. This is a game that tells people about where you're at as a program. Because as we saw from Georgia a couple of Saturdays ago, when it got rough, when it got as bad as it can get in some ways for Georgia early in that game in Knoxville, it was able to lean into its program, who it is, what Kirby Smart has established. In fairness to Kalen DeBoer, it took Kirby a couple of years. Now, Kirby's second year, he had that thing right there in the national title hunt. Probably should have won it in his second year. His first year, it was kind of like DeBoer's 2024 at Alabama. But this is the kind of game where good teams and good programs, you see some separation. The good
Yeah.
programs
Yeah.
win these kind of games. The good teams, they might win 1 out of 3 or 4 of these. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's Alabama's kind of team, yeah, but like you mentioned, Ty Simpson and how great he's been these last 2 games. The answer to that right now is going to be, yeah, but that was
Yeah.
ULM and
Yeah.
that was a
Right.
Wisconsin
Right.
team that got rolled at home by
Mm-hmm.
Maryland over the weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, my eyes tell me Ty's been very good. That's been pretty easy to see. Yeah, but this is, as you said, a different situation. I think Jam Miller and Tim Keenan being available for this game for Alabama should give Alabama fans increased confidence because they're going to bring the requisite physicality to that team that hasn't always
Yeah.
shown that under
Sure.
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Georgia, as you said, pretty good rushing numbers. It's not
Mm-hmm.
pretty. I talked about this last night too, is that neither one of these running back groups blow you
Mm-hmm.
away.
No, they don't do
They're
them.
not to this point. They're not big. They're not like Ahmad Hardy at 7+ per carry from Missouri.
No.
They're 4.5, 5 yard per carry type of guys. So I think running the football is going to be tough. I think the perimeter is where this thing could get won for
Yeah.
any of these
Yeah.
teams because Georgia likes that quick game. They like to run the edges in the run game. Alabama has not shown a consistent propensity to set an edge against those type of situations. So I think Mike Bobo, if it isn't the first couple of snaps at some point early in the game Saturday night, is going to work the edges of that Alabama defense and see if, first of all, they're aligned in a way in which
Yeah.
they can deal with it. And then second of all, even if they are aligned in a way in which they have the numbers and they're not outflanked and you're not wondering where the hell is the outside linebacker against
Yeah.
an outside zone, um, can they follow through with the physicality that's going to be required? So I know Georgia's just a 3-point favorite. I thought when that line came out earlier in the week or in the last day or so, that was kind of low. The more I dig into Georgia, I kind of get it because to this point, when I look at Georgia, it's probably more about intangibles than even tangibles. I was more impressed in the win over Tennessee by the chin
Yes.
and the resiliency of that Georgia team, that Georgia program, than I was even the physical attributes and those things that I saw. But they've got some guys that will, at winning time, they can get the job done. And so Jam Miller bringing that physicality for Alabama at the running back position, I think will be big. Same thing for Tim Keenan. But I tend to lean probably a little bit to Georgia right now.
Yeah, I do too.
How this thing's going to go. I don't know about you, Brent.
No, I agree with that totally. I think that's very true. And look, he's not going to say a lot about it, but you know good and well this game means a lot to Kirby, especially with it being in Athens. Alabama certainly has won 9 of the last 10 meetings, and this would be a huge win in order to get it. I think if you're an Alabama fan, you'd feel better about this if they were tougher and had run the ball better. I mean, they can certainly throw it, but at some point, Trav, you've got to get 3rd and 2 or something like that. And right now, I would say Georgia may be in the better shape to do that. But again, your reality here for Alabama that goes back to the schedules, regardless of what happens here. You got Vandy next week. Then you've got at Missouri. Then you got Tennessee coming to town. Then you go to South Carolina. But before that week off for the LSU, my stars, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's where losing the Florida State game, even though it wasn't a conference game,
Yes,
still hurts you because if you don't get the job done Saturday night, you're probably going to need to go 7-1 the rest of the way.
No question.
Against that schedule, and that would put you at 9-3.
Yeah.
If you get the win Saturday night, you don't have really the luxury of being able to breathe because of what's coming, and you can get exposed very quickly, like we saw with Alabama a year ago after LSU.
Yeah.
If they do that with a successful result Saturday night, I think for Alabama, where they can sort of differentiate themselves from Georgia Saturday night is in the explosive passing game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
We saw Tennessee with 9 completions for 15 yards or more in that matchup with the Dogs. I think it starts with protection. Georgia has a guy in Chris Cole that a lot of people in Athens feel like even this week could be a big, big moment for him. He's a young player. Jalen Walker before him was kind of that guy at the linebacker position. They've got Raylan Wilson at inside linebacker, CJ Allen. That's why it's important to have Jam Miller back.
Yeah.
And not just so much in terms of running the football, but also when those guys come in pressures, you're going to have a guy in Jam Miller that recognizes it, identifies it, and then also physically can execute in those high speed collision moments that we expect to see. And then if Alabama can protect Ty Simpson well enough, I think they have the edge when you talk about Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton to an extent, Latsier Brooks. And then, there's some guys even beyond those matchups for both teams that can kind of supplement, the run game. I think the tight ends, Lucky, Delp, for Georgia, Josh Cuevas for Alabama is a guy that they don't hesitate getting the ball to in the quick game. Again, some of that perimeter stuff I think is going to be sort of a supplement to what these teams get more out of what a lot of people are anticipating in this matchup on Saturday night. Let's talk about also on Saturday night, South Carolina Gamecocks. Really, it's been tough in the Palmetto State, man.
Sure has.
Clemson 1-3. South Carolina was expected to be more than 2-2 at this point, but it's the Gamecocks hosting Mark Stoops and the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky's been dealing with a quarterback injury. Lenore Sellers did play for South Carolina in a loss at Missouri last Saturday night. Talked about this earlier. Talked about it last week too. Other than Lenore Sellers for that South Carolina offense right now, where's it coming from?
I don't know.
Where can it come from, Brent?
Yeah. Look, I agree with that. And the number of players that are out. Case and Henry on the offensive line, tackle Gabriel Brownlow Dindy was also out. Safety DQ Smith. You can just kind of go on and on and on. And they're without defensive back Judge Collier and tight end Michael Smith, to your point. South Carolina only ran for 37 yards, had 5 sacks in the Missouri loss. So, the winner of this game would feel a little better about themselves. But Trav, could Kentucky catch South Carolina a little wounded and feeling sorry for themselves?
They could, and defensively, Dylan Stewart, I guess he's been okay through 4 games. I think it's 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. You don't have that other edge presence this year, though, as much that South Carolina had a year ago. You had to deal with 2 of those guys a year ago, not so much this year. I still like South Carolina in the game, I think, but it's another one of those where I'm not going to allow myself to be surprised regardless of how that one plays out at Williams-Brice Stadium. I think that's a wrap for Saturday's games. Maybe let me see here. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think that's it, Brent. What else you got for us?
Well, Trav, we've got to, and I'll be brief about this, but we've got to mention those Florida Gators.
Oof. They don't want us to, but we'll do
it. No, I know Pops can't be happy with what's going on.
I think Pops has reached apathy at this point. I think he's apathetic towards the orange and blue. Yeah, it's a rough situation, man. Watching that loss to Miami, and give Miami a lot of credit, man. They fly around and they will strike you at all 3 levels. That's a very impressive Miami defense, Brent. DJ Lagway just mechanically, mentally, whatever it is, maybe all of the above. It's tough to watch
It
right
is.
now.
It
Just
is.
in terms of the most basic
Mhm.
of underneath routes, things like that. He is struggling mightily. I'll give Jaden Ball, my guy, some credit. I thought he showed some life there in
He
the second
did.
half.
It sure did.
Kind of made that thing interesting there for a little bit.
Mhm.
Carson Beck gets a lot of love from Miami. I think he's about third down
Yeah.
at least on that list of why that team is where it is right now. I think it can run the football. It's got really good backs, physical, not only on the line of scrimmage, but even their wide receivers get after you in the run game. And then I go to that Miami defense next with Reuben Bain and those guys. But it's tough for the Gators right now, man.
It really, oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, worst start in 39 years. But, Trav, the really got to be frustrating thing for Gator fans, Miami, LSU, and South Florida. I mean, it wouldn't have taken much for them to be undefeated right now,
Yeah, against
frankly.
some quality teams.
So,
Yeah,
but my stars, you've got a week off, and then you've got Texas at home, and they're struggling almost
Texas got
again.
the week off too.
Yeah, that's right. And then you go to what could be a very improved A&M team. You still got to play Georgia and Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And my stars, Tennessee is on the list. Ole Miss, you still got to play, and then Florida State. Trav, my question to you is, and you hear stuff like I do. Do they?
They go season. I mean, I would think if you were going to go like Oklahoma State did, you would have done it this week because
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
now. I guess you could still do it the week before. Is it the week before Georgia? That's
Yes,
another off
yes,
week for Florida.
yes.
I guess you could maybe at this point. I kind of feel about that like I do Arkansas with Pittman.
Yeah,
Just go ahead and play it out and do what you're gonna. It's got to be tough for Scott Strickland though. I mean, this is his
sure.
guy, right?
It is, no
And
doubt.
Strickland just got extended and a raise.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sure the
Mm-hmm.
basketball success
Yes,
had something to do with that, as it
right.
probably should. And we haven't
Yeah.
even talked about Bruce Pearl tonight, but that's kind of where I sit on these things with like Florida and
Mm-hmm.
unless you feel like because of that portal date being where it is, you need to be able to have that next guy
Yeah.
step right into the job
Mm-hmm.
as soon as the season's over. You're looking to get that sort of head start. I guess from that perspective, I could get it, Brent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and Gator fans, first 4 weeks, they're last in the SEC and points per game, second to last in total
They
yards.
can't run the ball.
No,
This
no,
offensive line and these backs, Brent,
no,
they can't run it.
no.
I think Napier knew probably going this season. Look, Lagway hasn't really had an off season. Hasn't been able to do enough.
True,
And
true.
so, but you know what? We'll be able to run the ball and we'll be able to play defense. And then
Yeah,
you look at the defensive side, the injuries they had
yeah.
going into that Florida game.
Mhm,
Everything
mhm.
has unraveled for
Yeah.
Billy Napier. And unlike the last unraveling, I don't think he's going to have another chance
No,
to re-ravel it, I guess you could say.
no. Oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Well, without delaying things, we'll have plenty of time to talk about Florida probably next week. But Trav, I think that's it. But man alive, what a Saturday in the league, and look, because of what they're doing with the schedule, we're going to have a lot more of these over the next few years, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. As we kind of said earlier, we run this down for like a weekend like this. This is with the 8 game.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
going to have an extra week of it,
yeah.
in 2026, and we'll certainly look forward to that when it comes. So for Brent Beaird, I'm Travis Reier. As Tex Tider, our pal, reminds you right here, and we appreciate it, Tex. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed the program. Hit us with a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. It'd help us out. If you haven't subscribed to Reier on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Coming up tomorrow night here on the channel, it'll be Talking Tide with Chase Goodbread of the Tuscaloosa News. But for Brent Beaird, I'm Travis Reier. Thanking you once again. And until next time.